Snow was falling softly over Denver, slow and gentle, like the sky itself was mourning. The streets were quiet, the air cold, and the world felt strangely heavy, as if Christmas had forgotten to carry its warmth this year. Nora Bennett, a 29-year-old nurse, stepped out of the hospital after a 13-hour shift. Her scrub smelled faintly of antiseptic, her shoulders hurt from exhaustion, and her eyes, usually bright, had dimmed since the tragedy she carried silently inside. Last Christmas, Nora had lost her younger brother in an accident she never spoke of. She had worked every holiday since then, trying to avoid memories that clawed at her heart whenever December lights appeared on rooftops. Tonight was no different. Her breath fogged in the freezing air as she made her way toward her old silver Honda parked across the lot. But then she stopped. A tiny piece of paper, so small, so fragile, was tucked carefully under her windshield wiper. At first, she thought it was a flyer or a note from security. But the handwriting. Childlike. Shaky. Full of fear. She unfolded it with trembling fingers. Her heart stopped. Please visit our daddy. He is lonely. He cries when he thinks we're asleep. We don't want him to be alone on Christmas. Please help him. Hope, grace, and joy. Nora's throat tightened painfully. Triplets? 3 little girls? Her eyes moved to the back of the note. A name. A name that nearly made her gasp. For Mr. Adrian Cole. Adrian Cole. CEO of Cole Industries. A billionaire. A man people whispered about, cold, distant, impossible to approach. Rumor was he'd shut himself away from the world after losing his wife 3 years ago. But what shocked Nora wasn't his name. It was one sentence scribbled beneath it in tiny handwriting. We think you're the only one who can help him. Her breath caught. Why, her? She didn't know the triplets. She had never met the CEO. She had no connection to them at all. But that handwriting. Those scared little letters. The pleading tone. It pierced something deep inside her. A wound she thought had already scarred. She looked up at the sky, at snowflakes falling like silent tears, and whispered to herself. Why me? But in her heart, she already knew the answer. Because some cries. Some wounds. Some broken souls. Find each other, even in the dark. She pressed the note to her chest and stood there for a long moment, letting the cold air sting her cheeks, grounding her. Finally, she whispered. I'll go. And she meant it. Whatever waited for her tomorrow. Whatever pain this man carried. Whatever the triplets saw in her that she couldn't see herself. She would go. Nora stood outside the towering glass building of Cole Industries. Her pulse hammered in her throat. She must have looked out of place, wearing a simple winter coat, boots still damp from melted snow, and eyes raw from a night spent debating whether she was making a mistake. She took a deep breath and walked in. The receptionist glanced up. Yes, Do you have an appointment? Nora shook her head. But before the woman could dismiss her, Nora placed the small note on the counter. The receptionist froze. Her eyes softened, instantly, painfully. You got one of their notes. Do they do this often? Nora whispered. Only when they're scared. A sad smile. And they're scared every Christmas. Nora swallowed. Can I see him? The receptionist hesitated, then picked up the phone. A few quiet seconds passed. All right, she finally said. He'll see you. The elevator ride to the penthouse office felt endless. Her heart beat faster with every passing floor. When the doors opened, Nora stepped into a space that felt less like an office and more like a frozen museum. Cold. Silent. Perfect. Dead. A man stood with his back to her, tall, broad-shouldered, posture rigid like someone who had forgotten how to relax. Mr. Cole, she said softly. He turned. Her breath caught. Adrian Cole looked like someone who had been carved out of grief. Strong features. Sharp jaw. But hollow eyes, eyes that had seen too much pain, too much loss, too much loneliness. "What do you want?" he asked, voice low and rough. Nora stepped forward and held out the note. "I found this yesterday." He froze. His eyes dropped to the paper. His breathing faltered. He didn't touch it. Didn't move. Didn't speak, just stared at it like it was a wound reopened. "My daughters," he said quietly. "They wrote this." Nora nodded. "They think you're lonely." A tragic smile brushed his lips. "Children see too much." Nora braced herself. "I'm a nurse. I don't know why they chose me, but they're worried about you." Silence. Long. Heavy. Painful. Finally, Adrian spoke. "You shouldn't have come." "I think I should have," she whispered. His eyes, cold and guarded a moment ago, flashed with something raw. A crack. A fracture. A moment of truth. He sank into his chair, slowly, as if gravity itself was too heavy for him. "You don't know what I've lost." Nora swallowed. "Maybe I don't. But I know what losing someone feels like." He looked up sharply. "Who?" "My brother," she whispered. "Last Christmas." A pause. A breath. A connection neither expected, but both needed. Adrian stood. He walked to the window. Snow fell outside, soft, relentless, quiet. "My wife died on Christmas Eve," he said, voice trembling despite his effort to stay composed. "Every Christmas feels like a punishment." Nora felt tears burn her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He shook his head. "My daughters think I hate Christmas. But the truth is, Christmas hates me." His voice cracked. Nora stepped closer. "No. It doesn't hate you. It's just reminding you of what you lost." He looked at her. Really looked. For the first time, she saw the man behind the CEO. A father barely holding himself together. A husband haunted by memories. A human drowning behind an image of perfection. "All they want is you," Nora whispered. "They aren't asking for presents. They're asking for their father." His jaw clenched painfully. "I don't want them to see me like this." Broken, Nora's voice trembled as she answered. "Sometimes, letting people see your broken pieces is how healing starts." A long silence hung between them. Then, Adrian closed his eyes and whispered words that shattered her heart. "I don't know how to be their father anymore." Nora's breath caught. "You don't have to be perfect," she said gently. "You just have to be there." His shoulders shook once. Just once. But it was enough. Enough to show that beneath the steel exterior was a man who hadn't cried in years. A man who needed help but didn't know how to ask. A man whose triplet daughters wrote desperate notes to strangers because they were afraid of losing him too. Nora took a careful step closer. "Let me help you," she said. Adrian stared at her with eyes full of storms. "You don't even know me." "No," she said softly. "But your daughters believed I could help you. And I trust their hearts more than anything." Something in him broke. Quietly. Silently. But deeply. He whispered, "Please, don't leave." And Nora knew. This wasn't just a man asking for company. This was a father asking to be saved. This was a soul asking not to be alone anymore. And so she nodded. "I'm not going anywhere." Outside. Snow kept falling. Inside. A frozen heart finally began to melt. Cold winter wind slapped the tall glass windows of Grayson Tower, but inside the private CEO suite, the warmth was no match for the coldness inside Daniel Grayson's heart. For years, he had everything. Power. Money. Status. But no family. And tonight, He finally remembered what that truly meant. As Sarah stepped out of the elevator with the triplets, she noticed the guard staring in confusion. 3 tiny girls, in oversized coats, with tear-stained cheeks, and a worn-out envelope in Sarah's hands. It was not a sight wealthy corporate offices were used to. Visitors aren't allowed up here. Sarah raised her chin. Her voice steady. Professional. Yet trembling. These children need to see Daniel Grayson. It's urgent. The guard hesitated. But when one of the girls, Lily, whispered, Please? Daddy's all alone. Something broke even in the guard's heart. He quietly swiped his card and let them pass. Daniel stood at the far end of the room, staring at the city lights. He didn't turn around. He didn't expect anyone. He didn't want anyone. Until he heard a small sniffle. A child's sniffle. He froze. Slowly, he turned. And what he saw shattered him. 3 little girls. Identical faces. Identical brown curls. Identical sad eyes. The same eyes he once promised he'd protect. His daughters. Lily. Aria. Hope. And behind them, Nurse Sarah, holding a crumpled note. Daniel's throat tightened. What are you doing here? His voice cracked. Hope stepped forward, holding a tiny stuffed reindeer tightly. Daddy, we wrote you a note. Sarah gently extended the envelope. Daniel's shaking fingers took it. He opened it slowly, painfully. Inside, written in messy crayon. Please visit Daddy. He's lonely. And we are too. A single tear fell from Daniel's eye onto the paper. He didn't wipe it. Daniel whispered, voice broken. Why would you write this? Aria swallowed hard, her lips trembling. Mommy said you were too busy. Too important. For little girls like us. Sarah stepped in quickly, voice protective. They deserve the truth, Daniel. He looked at Sarah, really looked. Her tired eyes, her trembling hands, the exhaustion of carrying the emotional weight of 3 children. Then tell them, he said bitterly. Tell them why I stayed away. But Sarah shook her head slowly. No. You tell them. The triplets stared at him. Waiting. Afraid. Hopeful. Terrified. Daniel let out a breath that broke him from inside. I didn't stay away because I didn't want you. A soft sob escaped Lily. Daniel continued. I stayed away because your mother left me no choice. The girls froze. Sarah's eyes widened. Daniel walked toward the window, memories crushing him. Your mom and I, we fought a lot. She didn't want you to grow up around business. Around money. Around me. He clenched his fists. She said I'd turn you cold. The same way life turned me cold. His chest rose and fell with trembling breaths. So she left. Took you away. Changed numbers. Moved states. The girls gasped. Sarah covered her mouth. And every Christmas, Daniel whispered. I waited. Just in case. You'd come back. Silence. Heavy, tearful silence. Until Aria choked out. Then why didn't you find us? Daniel fell to his knees in front of them. Because I didn't know where you were. I tried. God knows I tried. But she hid you too well. He broke down crying. And for the first time since the triplets were born. Their father was completely vulnerable. Daniel cried harder. Hope whispered, voice quivering. If we knew you were waiting for us, we would have run to you. Daniel reached out his shaking hands. The triplets looked at each other. Then they ran. Straight into his arms. Their tiny hands grabbing his coat. Their little heads burying into his chest, their sobs mixing with his. It was raw. painful, healing, and so heartbreakingly beautiful. Nurse Sarah stepped back, tears streaming silently down her face. She had taken care of these kids for years. Watched them miss their father every Christmas. Watched them stare out windows, waiting for someone who never came. But now, she was watching something sacred. Daniel whispered into their hair, "I'm here now. And I'm never letting go. Never again." The triplets held him tighter. "Promise?" Arya whispered. Daniel pressed a kiss to each of their foreheads. "I promise on my life." Suddenly, the building lights outside flickered. The timer reached 7 p.m. and the entire city lit up with Christmas decorations. Thousands of sparkling lights. Red, white, gold, glowing across the skyline. The triplets gasped in harmony. It was magical. Daniel looked at Sarah. "You brought them here. On Christmas Eve." Sarah nodded softly. They deserved a Christmas miracle. Daniel's expression softened for the first time in years. "Thank you, Sarah." She smiled gently. "They're special girls." Daniel whispered, "They're my whole world." But peace never lasts. Just when everything felt warm, safe, whole, Daniel's phone buzzed. An unknown number. He frowned. Answered. A woman's voice came through. Broken, scared, and familiar. "Daniel, it's me. I made a terrible mistake. And now I need your help." The triplets froze. Sarah's eyebrows lifted. Daniel's breath stopped. It was their mother. Her voice cracked. "Please, they're in danger." The line cut. Silence. Sarah looked at Daniel. The girls held onto him. And Daniel whispered the words that would change everything. Snow fell silently over Denver, the city wrapped in a cold white blanket, while inside Grayson Tower, Daniel Grayson's penthouse felt warmer than it had in years, but only because the three little girls clung to him so desperately. Yet the warmth couldn't erase the sudden, chilling reality. The mother of the triplets, Isabella Grayson, had called, frantic and broken. Daniel's hands trembled as he dialed the unknown number back. The triplets, sensing the tension, pressed closer to him. "Daddy, what's wrong?" Hope asked. Daniel's voice was tight, almost unrecognizable. "Girls, stay here, all right? I need to take this." He stepped into the living room, putting the phone on speaker. Isabella's voice came through, trembling and desperate. "Daniel, I need you. The girls, they're in danger." I didn't know who else to call. Daniel's chest tightened. He looked down at the girls. Lily clutched his hand, Hope hid her face, and Arya's eyes were wide, brimming with fear. "What do you mean? What's happened?" Daniel demanded. Isabella's voice cracked. It's complicated. I wasn't supposed to take them tonight. There's someone who's been following us." Daniel's pulse quickened. Fear sliced through him sharper than the winter wind outside. Daniel turned to Sarah. "Pack what you can. We're leaving. Now." She didn't hesitate. She had been with these girls for years, had helped them through broken Christmases and lonely nights. And now, she would stand by the father they had just reunited with. They bundled up the triplets, wrapping scarves and hats tightly around their small frames. Daniel's heart broke seeing them shiver in fear, not from the cold, but from the unknown danger looming over them. The elevator doors closed, and the city lights reflected off the glass walls of the tower. The car ride was silent. No one spoke. The snow muffled the world outside, but inside Daniel's chest, alarm screamed. 3 years ago, Isabella Grayson had taken the girls on what was supposed to be a simple Christmas outing. Daniel, buried in work, had stayed behind. A moment of negligence, a driver distracted by the lights, and the accident had forever changed their lives. Isabella had hidden the truth from Daniel, thinking he couldn't bear the weight of guilt. Now, it seemed, someone had found out. Someone who wanted to exploit the vulnerability of their family. Daniel clenched the steering wheel. He swore silently. I will not let anything happen to them again. Not tonight. Not ever. When they reached Isabella's apartment, Daniel and Sarah noticed the door ajar. Stay here, Daniel whispered to the girls. He crept inside, senses heightened, heart hammering. The living room was in disarray. A chair overturned, gifts scattered across the floor, ornaments broken. Isabella's voice came from the bedroom. Daniel, thank God you're here. He ran toward her. She was on the floor, trembling, her hands clutching a tiny gift box as if it were a shield. Someone came, they said they'd take the girls if I didn't pay, she stammered. I don't know who they are. They're dangerous. Daniel felt a cold wave of fear. He gathered her in his arms, whispering fiercely. No one will touch them. I swear it. From the doorway, Lily peeked. Daddy, we're not scared. We're with you. Arya stepped forward. We'll be brave too. Hope nodded, small fists clenched. We can help Daddy keep us safe. Daniel felt tears well up. These tiny children, fragile and innocent, were braver than many adults he had met in boardrooms and battles. All right, he whispered. Then we protect each other. Together. Always. As Daniel checked the apartment, Sarah found signs of forced entry. Broken locks. Footprints in the snow outside. They knew you'd come, she said softly. They were waiting for us. Daniel's jaw clenched. Not tonight. Not Christmas Eve. No one is taking my family from me. He grabbed a heavy flashlight and walked to the window. Snow had covered the tracks, but faint footprints led toward the alley. He could feel the adrenaline surging through his veins. A father's instinct had taken over. This was no longer just about reunion, it was about survival. Daniel gathered the girls and Isabella into a tight circle. Listen to me, he said firmly. No matter what happens, I'm not leaving your side. We're going to be okay. We're together. And together, we're stronger than anything that comes at us. The girls looked at him, tears mixed with determination. Promise, Daddy? Lily asked. I promise, he whispered. And for the first time, hope glimmered in their tiny eyes. Sarah guided them through the back door into the alley, where Daniel's black SUV was parked. Snow crunched beneath their boots as Daniel held the girls close, scanning every shadow. Hold on tight, he said. And as they drove away, the city lights behind them, Daniel silently vowed. This Christmas would not be a tragedy. Not tonight. Not ever. The triplets whispered soft prayers, gripping each other. Isabella held Daniel's hand, trembling but relieved. And in the back seat, bundled in blankets, the girls whispered. Daddy, we're home. For Daniel, the drive was heavy with emotion. Years of guilt, heartbreak, and loneliness crashed down on him all at once. But this time, he had a family. A family that believed in him. A family that depended on him. He glanced at the rearview mirror, seeing the triplets asleep, small heads on blankets. And he whispered. I will protect you. I will love you. I will never let this happen again. Sarah, sitting beside him, gave a small, sad smile. You've already saved them, Daniel. You've already become the father they needed. He nodded, knowing this was only the beginning. Because the threat was still out there. Someone wanted them apart. Someone wanted to steal the fragile happiness of this reunited family. And Daniel Grayson, CEO, father, protector, would not let that happen. Snowflakes fell in endless streams over Denver, soft and silent like the world itself was holding its breath. Inside the SUV, Daniel Grayson gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. The triplets, bundled in warm blankets, rested their tiny heads against him. Isabella sat beside him, clutching his hand as though letting go would mean disaster. The city lights blurred past them, reflections dancing on wet asphalt. But Daniel's mind was elsewhere. Danger lurked behind, shadows trailing their every move, and Christmas, once a season of warmth, felt like a fragile candle in a storm. Daniel drove for nearly an hour, following a prearranged signal from Sarah's contacts. Finally, they reached a small, secluded cabin in the outskirts, away from city lights. The triplets peeked through the frosted windows. Lily whispered, "Is this our new home?" Daniel forced a reassuring smile. "It's temporary. But you'll be safe here." Sarah led them inside. The cabin smelled faintly of pine, candles, and old wood. Cozy, warm, everything the Grayson penthouse was not. Daniel knelt to face the girls. "You're safe. No one will touch you. I promise." Hope's tiny hand reached for his cheek. "Daddy, you really mean it." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "With all my heart." For a few hours, the cabin felt like a sanctuary. Daniel lit a small fireplace, Sarah arranged blankets, and the triplets, in awe, decorated a tiny Christmas tree with handmade ornaments. Daniel watched silently. For years, he had chased numbers, contracts, and power, but tonight, he saw the true meaning of life. A tiny giggle broke his thoughts. Lily whispered, "Daddy, this is the best Christmas ever." Daniel's chest tightened. Tears, unbidden, streamed down his cheeks. He hugged them tightly. "I've waited so long to hear that," he whispered. Sarah looked on, a soft smile on her face. This moment, pure, fragile, and fleeting, was worth every struggle, every heartbreak. Just as they began to relax, a faint noise came from outside, a shadow moving in the snow. Daniel froze, instincts kicking in. "Stay inside. Lock the doors." The triplets huddled close to him, Isabella gripping his hand, eyes wide with fear. He moved to the window, peering into the dark. A figure lurked in the distance, watching, waiting. "Not tonight," he whispered under his breath. Grabbing a flashlight and a crowbar, he moved to intercept. Sarah followed, steady and calm. "We can't let them see the girls," she said outside. The intruder stepped into the moonlight. A man, tall, dark coat, hood pulled over his face, paused, sizing them up. Daniel's voice cut through the cold air. "Stay back. Leave, or I call the police." The figure laughed softly, chillingly. "You can't protect them forever, Grayson." Daniel's blood ran cold. The triplets peeked from behind the window, sensing the tension but not seeing the full danger. The man lunged. Daniel reacted instantly, shoving him away, the crowbar connecting with a metallic clang. The intruder fell back but quickly regained his footing. Sarah grabbed a flare from her bag, lighting the air with a sudden red blaze. The man froze, shielding his eyes, then ran into the woods. Daniel's knees nearly gave way. He sank against the cabin wall, breathless. The girls rushed outside, little arms hugging him. "Daddy! You're okay." He held them close. "I'm okay. You're okay. That's all that matters." Tears mixed with snow as he whispered, "I will protect you, always." Inside the cabin, safer now, Daniel finally let himself collapse into a chair. Isabella sat beside him, trembling. I should have told you everything sooner," she admitted. Daniel shook his head. "It's not your fault. You tried to protect them, protect all of us." Sarah poured hot cocoa for the girls, who sat quietly, processing the terror they had just survived. Daniel turned to them, eyes softening. "I can't promise life will always be easy. But I can promise. I will never leave you again. Not on Christmas, not ever." The triplets cried silently, burying their faces in his chest. "We knew you loved us," Hope whispered. "We just wanted to be sure." Daniel's heart ached. All the missed Christmases, all the lonely nights, all the tears they had shed without him, they could never be recovered. But this was a beginning. Outside, the snow continued to fall, glittering under the moonlight. Inside, the fire crackled softly, shadows dancing across the walls. Daniel looked around at his little family, the triplets, Isabella and Sarah. For the first time in years, he felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. This Christmas, he whispered to himself. This Christmas, we are together. The girls placed tiny paper stars on the tree. Daniel smiled through tears. You made this Christmas perfect, he said softly. Isabella leaned her head on his shoulder. We're a family again, she whispered. The triplets nodded, their tiny voices whispering in unison. We're home, Daddy. We're home. Just as they began to settle, a soft, almost imperceptible noise came from the back of the cabin, a snow-crunching step. Daniel froze. Sarah grabbed a flashlight. The shadows outside shifted slightly. We're not done yet, he muttered under his breath. Someone wants to ruin this Christmas, but they won't succeed. The camera-like perspective, if visualized, would linger on Daniel's determined eyes, the girls clutching him tightly, and the snow outside glistening silently, hiding the threat that still lurked. The snow outside had slowed, turning the world into a sparkling winter wonderland. Yet inside the small cabin on the outskirts of Denver, Daniel Grayson's heart was pounding with both fear and determination. The threat from the shadows outside lingered in his mind, but for the first time in years, he had his family with him, the triplets, Isabella, and Nurse Sarah, who had become their silent guardian angel. Daniel's eyes scanned the forest surrounding the cabin. Every shadow, every rustle of snow, made him tense. Suddenly, a figure stepped forward. Daniel Grayson, a gravelly voice called. It was the man who had followed them earlier, the one responsible for threatening Isabella and the girls. Daniel stepped protectively in front of the triplets. Leave now, or I swear, his voice shook, but not with fear. With resolve. The intruder smirked. You think money and status make you untouchable? I know what you value most. And I'm here to take it. Daniel's hand instinctively went to the girl's shoulders. Not them. Not ever. Sarah stepped forward, holding a flare tightly in one hand, a fire of courage in her eyes. You won't touch a hair on their heads. Go away. The man hesitated, seeing the unity in front of him, the fear, yes, but also the love and resolve that no weapon could break. Daniel whispered under his breath. You don't know how strong a father's love can be. Inside the cabin, the triplets were terrified but watched their father protect them. Lily whispered. Daddy, we're scared. Daniel knelt to meet their eyes. I know, baby. But being scared doesn't mean you're weak. It means you care. And I care enough to protect you. Arya and Hope nodded, understanding that this Christmas would be unlike any other. They would witness their father's courage and feel the true meaning of family strength. The intruder, realizing his intimidation wouldn't work, retreated into the shadows. Daniel exhaled slowly, relief washing over him, but deep down. That night, by the soft glow of the fireplace, Daniel sat with his daughters on his lap. I've missed so many Christmases with you, he whispered. And I promise, never again. The girl's tiny hands clutched his coat. Daddy, Hope whispered softly. We always knew you loved us, but now we feel it. Tears streamed down Daniel's face as he kissed each of their foreheads. Isabella, standing nearby, watched silently. Her eyes reflected both sorrow and relief. Finally, Daniel and the girls were together, and nothing would take that away. Sarah smiled from the corner, quietly proud. She had helped heal broken hearts tonight, and seen miracles that no one else could witness. The triplets helped decorate a small tree in the cabin. Tiny paper stars, handmade ornaments, and glitter made it shine. This is the best Christmas ever! Lily exclaimed, her eyes bright with joy. Daniel hugged them tightly. It's the first of many. And it will get better, I promise. The warmth of the cabin wrapped around them, the smell of pine, the fire crackling, and the laughter of three little girls made the night unforgettable. Isabella joined them by the tree. We're a family again, she whispered. The triplets nodded enthusiastically. Forever, Arya said. Forever, Hope and Lily echoed. Daniel's eyes shimmered with tears. Finally, after years of pain, loneliness, and heartbreak, he had what mattered most, a family together on Christmas night. Daniel gazed out of the frost-covered window. The snow had stopped, and the city below glittered like a sea of lights. He realized that for years, he had measured life in numbers, contracts, and boardrooms. But tonight, he measured life in love, laughter, and safety, the warmth of his daughter's tiny hands and the trust in their eyes. He whispered to himself. All the pain, all the loss, it was worth this moment. Sarah approached him gently. You've changed tonight, she said. And so have they. He smiled, exhausted but happy. Later, as the family settled by the fireplace, Daniel pulled the triplets close. This Christmas, he said softly, is our miracle. Not presents. Not money. Not decorations. It's us. Together. Safe. Loved. The girls nestled into his chest, Isabella's hand in his. Sarah quietly stepped back, watching a scene she had prayed to see for years, broken hearts finally mending. Outside, the snow glistened, the world quiet and peaceful. Inside, hearts were full. Tears of sorrow had transformed into tears of joy. Daniel whispered, no matter what comes next, we are together. And that is enough. The triplets whispered in unison. We love you, Daddy. And in that moment, Daniel Grayson realized something he had not felt in years, complete, unshakable, and everlasting love.